Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into 16 years of absolute heart-stopping football history. We are going to break down exactly how a team survives, and honestly thrives, under the brightest lights in the sport. We're looking at the anatomy of Swedish World Cup drama from 2002 all the way through to 2018. I mean, just picture the scene, right? The absolute chaos of a World Cup match. You can literally hear the desperation in the broadcast booth. Here's the chance. And here's the goal. That raw emotion, that sudden explosive shift from pure desperation to total elation, that is the exact pressure cooker we're stepping into today.
Okay, let's dive right into this with part 1, breaking the deadlock. How exactly does Sweden manage to score when the clock is mercilessly ticking down? So, historically, during this particular era, Sweden had a real devil of a time scoring early. Converting leads just wasn't coming easy for them. Instead, they found themselves locked in these incredibly tight, goal-shy matches. Basically, they'd absorb the pressure, turning games into brutal wars of attrition, just waiting for those final, frantic moments to finally strike. It's like a giant game of chicken.
To put that into perspective, let's look at the timeline against Paraguay. The 90 minutes are nearly up, and the team looks totally gassed. There's literally less than 2 minutes remaining on the clock, and honestly, it feels pretty hopeless. But then, right when it matters most, Fredrik Ljungberg finds himself in the exact right place at the exact right time. Boom! The ball's in the net, and out of nowhere, their World Cup hopes are lifted. It's just a total masterclass in holding your nerve.
Now, sometimes breaking that deadlock required a flash of individual brilliance. Enter Marcus Allback. Stepping up to grab his 24th international goal, he somehow finds himself completely unmarked, no one near him, and delivers this superb, powerful header that keeps Sweden very much alive in the tournament. And, their whole mindset in these early matches was just relentless. The commentary really hit the nail on the head here. Sweden just wouldn't let England off the hook. During that massive 2-2 thriller, an Edmund throw-in caused absolute pandemonium in the box. And you know what? It didn't even matter who got the final touch. They just absolutely refused to back down. And that stubbornness secured their ticket to round 2.
All right, let's move on and see how this resilience builds into their next crucial weapon. Section 2, the penalty kings.
Fast forward to 2018, and set pieces had become an absolutely vital part of their DNA. During the qualifying run alone, Captain Andreas Granqvist stepped up to the plate and buried it from the penalty spot on 3 separate occasions. And let me tell you, hitting 3 out of 3 in high-stakes qualifiers builds an immense, unbreakable trust within a squad. So when that trust is put to the ultimate test against South Korea, the routine was grueling. Imagine this. First, you've got the agonizing tension of standing around waiting for a VAR check from all the way back in Moscow. Then, Granqvist has to shoulder the expectations of an entire nation against a keeper who had been pulling off magnificent saves all afternoon. The result? He keeps ice cold and buries it. The broadcast captured it perfectly. The captain keeps cool, Sweden lead, and it really is becoming the World Cup of penalties. And that's the thing. Sweden didn't just happen to take part in this tournament trend. They weaponized it. They used the penalty spot to fundamentally define their success in Russia. Now let's shift gears a bit. Section 3. Crushing the giants. This is where things get really explosive. Look at how they punished the heavyweights. Against Germany, of all teams, the legendary Toni Kroos makes an incredibly uncharacteristic mistake and gives away possession. Ola Toivonen instantly pounces, brings it down, finishes it, and suddenly Germany is pushed to the absolute brink of a humiliating exit. And who scores the first big breakthrough goal in Group F? Augustinson, an out-and-out left-back who basically never gets forward. It really goes to show in these massive games, the danger can literally come from anywhere. Then you look at the match against Mexico. Talk about a tale of two halves. In the first half, Sweden was clearly the better side, but kind of true to their old form, they just didn't take their opportunities. But man, the second half? They came out and completely transformed. They busted the game wide open, netting 3 goals and completely silencing a Mexican crowd that was so loud and expectant just minutes before. Hearing the broadcast crescendo during that surge is just chills. Written off too soon, they have busted it completely here in the second half. For a team that everyone had labeled as goal-shy, to just step up and dismantle a hopeful Mexican squad like that was a massive statement. They literally proved every single doubter wrong in 45 minutes. And you could see the psychological impact happening in real time. Mexican heads just dropped.
They simply cracked under the relentless weight of that Swedish second-half surge. It wasn't just a physical win, it was total psychological domination. Which brings us to a really interesting question in Section 4, a little bit of luck.
We've talked about their late-game heroics, their set-piece dominance, the mind games. But I want to ask you directly, what actually wins a tournament? Did Sweden rely purely on skill and strategy to advance? Or did they benefit from just a little bit of luck? Or maybe, did they just master the art of capitalizing on pure chaos?
Let's look at the evidence here, because in the World Cup, forcing your opponent into a sloppy error is just as good as a 30-yard screamer. Against Mexico, guys like Moreno, Salcedo, and Alvarez were constantly getting tangled up defending set pieces. And what happens? Alvarez ends up knocking the ball right past his own keeper for an own goal. And then later on against Switzerland, Emil Forsberg takes a shot that takes a massive, totally crucial deflection off Manuel Akanji. The commentators totally saw this coming too. They said the set pieces have been a problem from the off. Those are the consequences. Sweden clearly identified these structural weaknesses. They applied just a suffocating amount of pressure, and then they happily swept up the chaotic consequences that fell out. You look at Emil Forsberg's solitary celebration in St. Petersburg, and it just says it all. He's practically alone out there. The reality is, the Swiss goalkeeper probably would have saved that initial shot. But that one little flick off Akanji, it changed the trajectory and it changed history. It proved that sometimes a fortunate deflection is literally all you need for liftoff.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to chew on. In the absolute highest stakes of international football, where the margins are razor thin and the pressure is just unimaginable, is creating your own luck just as important as tactical perfection? Sweden's thrilling run shows us that surviving isn't always about being flawless. Sometimes it's just about being relentless enough to let the chaos work for you. Think about that next time you watch a knockout match. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next